Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mindful Marathon Conversations. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk. I'm a pediatrician and a run coach and the founder of Mindful Marathon, where I help make running easy and fun for busy professionals. And today I have a very special guest with me. I have with me Dr. Kerry Reller. She is a board-certified physician in family medicine and obesity medicine, and she practices in Clearwater, Florida. She has a really interesting story. I'm going to let her take it from here. And we're going to talk about her marathon journey and some training tips that she learned along the way. So, Dr. Kerry, welcome to the show. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to, talk running and marathon with you and nutrition a little bit too.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So you had a different career before you went into medicine. When were you a runner, or have you always been a runner?
I would say running started for me in college. So I was a soccer player growing up, definitely high school. And I played up until I was pregnant, I guess. But I was not really much of a runner until college, where I wasn't playing soccer full time and I needed some other outlet. So my roommate at the time I guess she did cross country in high school, and I'd see her go out for a run around the lakes and stuff where I went to school. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like fun. I guess I should get involved in that. So that's kind of how I started running. And then later on, I started doing races in my senior year of college as well.
Okay.
I think the first one I did was in Minneapolis when I was
Oh,
doing
wow.
a research internship there. So luckily it wasn't the winter, because I would have not done well. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I think it's just a love of activity and fitness for me for like my whole life, really.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was not always a runner, so I love to hear about everyone's story of how they like came to the sport, or if it feels like it's always been a part of them, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
The funny part is I still don't even call myself a runner, but I really should,
Really?
because I'm out there doing it. I'm just not winning anything.
Well, most of us aren't winning
Right.
anything. Wow. Why do you think that you aren't a runner? That's amazing.
I don't know, just
Are
because I
you,
like to keep a balanced activity level, but
yeah.
I don't
Do
know.
you
I'm
do
not
you
running every
run
day.
like most, I don't know, do you run most of the days of the week, or like do you go through, certain months where you don't run and then go back to it?
The last couple years, I know I've just been more like 2 to 3 days a week, and I do more strength training and HIIT and
Hmm.
boxing and bar. And I used to swim a lot more, but not since I have had kids here. So,
Yeah.
so just
Yeah.
2 to 3 days a week. But
It's not
Wednesday is
just,
my
believe
early
me.
day. I get up early and I do a long run, so it's nice.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you run, you're a runner, but
Great.
that's a mindset hurdle that I had to overcome as well. And also, I don't know at what point I thought the definition started to apply. Like how many races did I have to enter, or, what distance did I have to run? Do you have to run a marathon to call yourself a runner? I don't know. I went through all of these like thoughts a long time ago. So anyways, I think you're a runner. Um, embrace it.
I know. Yeah. Definitely a mindset thing for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
tell us about okay, so you've run a marathon.
Yes,
Tell
not
us.
too many. I think I can't even remember if it's 2 or 3, to be honest, but
Okay,
half is
it's
usually
okay.
my distance as of late. So the
Me
first
too.
race
Me
I
too.
ever ran was like a 10K, the one I was talking about in college. And then
Hmm.
in graduate school, I was playing club soccer, but then I joined team in training. So
Yes.
that's basically who helped me run my first marathon. And we did the San Diego, and it was rock and roll. I think it was
Yeah.
one of the first times they did it, and it was super fun. So
Yeah.
it was great having that team atmosphere and raising money for a good cause. And it's a little bit different now, I think, because I was like literally still mailing out letters for fundraising and things like that. And now I think you just like send everybody to your website and get money. But
Yeah.
it was great. So I was in grad school at the time, and I had a lot more free time than I did or do in residency and med school and stuff. But I was definitely still doing other activities. Like I said, I was playing club soccer and swimming and everything. and just, overall a lot of exercise and fitness.
Mhm.
However, I think that my nutrition really was not on point when I was doing that. So I would think there were several things involved really, but I think the biggest things are nutrition for running. We always think about carbohydrates, right? And at the end of our long runs on Saturday, the team in training people would, have a great spread of bagels out there and other things. And I think this led me to thinking that I always had to replenish with, carbohydrate, which, isn't necessarily true. Instead of, I think focusing more on protein, which is something I would probably do now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that has to stem with, my training in nutrition and obesity medicine in the last couple of years, really, of where I'm like looking back upon my experience training for that marathon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did I gain weight?
Yeah.
And it wasn't muscle mass either. I mean, it might have been, but I gained weight when I was training for that race. And like I said, looking back, I start to realize that. So I can't tell you exactly how much, but I actually did try to go look at weights that I recorded.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, at maybe 10 pounds, I think. I mean, maybe not, maybe less than that. But I mean, that it was enough to make me feel like what happened here? What happened with my nutrition? And it's multifactorial, I think, there, because not only was I probably eating a lot more carbs than I think my body needed, and everybody is definitely different.
Yeah.
But I think it was my first time living on my own, right? I had roommates in college and we lived in our apartment, but I was all by myself in an apartment in Atlanta, Georgia. And I didn't know that many people. And I might have made friends with Ben and Jerry's. So I thought I could eat whatever I wanted, right?
Yeah,
and I think a lot of us
yeah.
go into that mentality, and you can't outrun a bad diet or anything is something I've learned in the end. And I wouldn't even say that my overall nutrition was that bad. And this is probably because I did learn a lot about nutrition. I was in Weight Watchers since I did a little bit at 18 years old for my weight, mostly because like in soccer I was not feeling as fast and fit as the other people, and I don't know if I was even technically overweight, but I had a little push from the parents, so I started it then. And then I didn't really do it in college until my senior year. And that's because I came back from junior year, I came back from studying abroad in London. And I just told you how much I exercise, right?
Yeah.
Studying abroad in London, I didn't exercise.
Oh, you didn't exercise.
So I I'm not going to say I didn't go out and have fun and travel and stuff, but
yeah,
I walked a lot. I can remember like times where I went on a run in Hyde Park and stuff, but I gained a lot of weight studying abroad. And so when I came back, guess what? Like I started running every single day when I came back, and I'm like, I got to get back on my, fitness level. Yeah. And I also ended up joining Weight Watchers again at that point. So, I've been in and out of it and learned a lot from it. I mean, my mom, had learned nutrition, growing up. So I think we always ate, rather healthy in general. But then I would say the sweets thing, definitely entered more into my life as I probably was, an adult, able to go purchase it myself and, enjoy it. So I think that was a real kind of pitfall of my training of the marathon. I feel like I could have run faster, harder, and, been maybe not gained weight while I was training for it, instead of only have gained muscle. So since then, and learning about obesity medicine, I feel like for my body, everybody is different. I don't need as much carb at all. In fact, I just ran a half a few weeks ago, and I actually had a GI bug the day before. So I didn't eat for over 24 hours, and I had enough fuel to finish the race the next day. It was definitely not my prettiest, but I was able to do it. So I'm not a person who needs all that carb load. And I think that was part of that for me. And then now I feel like I definitely focus on protein after a good workout, right? To build that muscle and repair it rather than the carbohydrate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things for me.
I think there's a lot to unpack there. When you ran in the middle of the race, how did you feel? It might be hard to go back to that, to that first marathon.
It was 2004.
But like, did you feel, did you feel good during the race? So whatever you were doing leading up to that, whatever we could say about it, it wasn't horrible if you felt fairly okay during the race.
You're right. So that's an excellent point. We went to Buca de Beppo, the
Oh,
day
yeah,
before,
yeah.
carbo loaded there. I mean, they were pushing pretzels on me.
pasta,
I'm
yeah.
sure I did the goos. And I definitely, just the atmosphere and the
Yeah,
motivation of the bands and the people I was running with. I don't remember running out of gas too bad at all. Really.
Okay. That's great.
Maybe I probably had, that 21 miler kind of fatigue, but I don't particularly remember that, but it was almost 20 years ago for my first marathon that I'm talking about. So
but I think we all learn a lot, trial and error with nutrition for each of us. I think each runner is a little bit different, but there are so many different things across the spectrum. Like there are runners I've coached who are afraid of carbs, like to the point that they're coming from a place of eating a very, very low to no carb diet. And then there's people who are afraid of the appetite that comes with marathon training. Like that was one of the things for me. And it still is, depending on where I am in a training cycle. Like even putting on more mileage and running more for training for a half marathon, my appetite goes, it feels like it's double. I'm sure it's not, but it's always, feeding the hungry runners. And there are a lot of people afraid of that. So depending on, where you are in your training and where you are in your distances and what your experience with food and nutrition is coming into this, like we all come into training from different perspectives. So a lot of the coaching around nutrition there's a lot to unpack there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I've also learned to lean in more to the carbs and the protein. I don't think I was eating enough of either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think back then maybe I did need more carb. I don't know, but I feel like I just maybe wasn't balancing it all.
Yeah.
But I think just looking back, I'm like, holy smokes, it's way more than I eat now. And I won't say I do as long of distance now. I did run, the most I've run since the last marathon I did was 16 and a half. And it was our COVID half. Like I ran with my husband to the beach, but so I just don't feel like I needed that. And I think that's the whole lesson I'm trying to show, is that everybody's different. You really need to figure out your nutrition of what's going to work for you. But obviously being mindful that you probably can't eat absolutely whatever you want to fuel your body in the best way to be a good runner.
Yeah, that's true too. What you were saying about Ben and Jerry's, and definitely there are runners out there who are like, well, I'm just going to run it off so I can eat whatever, in the form of sweets and alcoholic beverages and pizza and things like that. And you're right, you can't outrun a bad diet.
Yeah. Sure. So you mentioned the alcohol. That was another thing I was going to bring up, which is funny because I was looking at some of your previous videos, and one of the other doctors I think you were interviewing had an alcoholic beverage with.
Yes, I think was that Dr. Alex? I can't remember.
Yes,
but yes, she made me laugh when she showed up to our interview with that.
That was awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, like back then, I was in grad school trying to hang out and meet people, and I definitely drank way more than I do. Well, obviously more than I do now, because I rarely drink at all. Because I get migraines really bad from it now. So I don't even at all drink. But I mean, I think that's a huge thing too. And I thought it was so funny. And she even brought it up, was like, why at the end of the race do you feel like they always have to have like alcohol? And now I thought it was just a celebratory thing. My husband seems to think he heard like a rumor of that's for hydration. I'm like, what? So I had never heard that one, but I didn't know if any of your listeners had. So I find that completely opposite. I think it's just a celebration thing and not actually used for hydration, because I think it's the opposite of hydration. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think I do remember a very hot marathon that my husband and I ran in Florida, in Disney, your neck of the woods, in 2020, like right before the pandemic. And it was sweltering. Like it was so hot in January. And I was thinking in the middle of the race, probably around mile 20, like it would be really nice to have a beer when this is over, like a nice cold beer. And I was thinking about that for like a few miles, but when I got to the end, like I really didn't want anything at all. Like I had to force in some Gatorade and some water, but it's just funny what your mind does. But I definitely went there like, oh, and it'll be, midday. It's not first thing in the morning. That's also funny to me that we have these races at like 7 a.m. and you finish and then there's a beer tent.
I don't get that.
Yeah. Anywho, but yes, I think it's for celebratory purposes. I would not recommend it for hydration.
I'm glad to hear that.
Water, Gatorade, sports drink. Yeah. A smoothie even. Oh my God.
I also wanted to mention, so I did a lot of running when I was breastfeeding and even pregnant, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mostly halves. I don't think I ever dabbled in a whole marathon. No. But I am the kind of person, I guess, that I got super bad leg cramps at the end of the race, like almost like I need to go to the medical tent and get an IV. But I had a friend basically shove Gatorade down my throat, like literally like 3 full Gatorades until it stopped cramping. So, and that's even after my husband wore a backpack the entire race. So I'd have all the nutrition I needed, or whatever during the race when I was pregnant and, pumping and stuff. I never carried a pump or anything, but I think it's important, obviously, to, with the hydration of breastfeeding, you have to drink way more water. And I do think the sports drinks, helped a lot in that case. So I think breastfeeding and running is, a challenge, and anybody who does a marathon, more power to them, but I'm not the one that's going to go run and pump in the middle of my Ironman or anything. But
we haven't talked about that on the YouTube channel yet. Maybe that's a definite great topic for another conversation. I haven't talked to anybody who did a marathon or an Ironman or something while breastfeeding, but that would be a great topic.
There are definitely people I know and have been connected with, because I feel like I've given advice, but I was such a bad pumper back when I was doing more of those triathlons and things that it would have taken me forever. So it was kind of not possible for me. That's before I, had the different kind of breast pumps like Spectra and stuff. But back with the Medela, it would have taken me hours just
forever,
to
right?
Race. Yeah. It wouldn't have worked. But so adequate hydration, carbohydrates, protein. I think those are super important things as well. And I think I also wanted to mention like the supplement industry regarding running. And as long as you're eating like, a balanced diet, I don't really feel the need to supplement. There's a lot of like energized type things that you can do before, or these recovery things after. And I really don't think they're necessary. I mean, if you want to spend money on those kind of things, I guess that's okay. But really just eating a balanced diet and, getting, whole foods, I think is enough for that. I don't know if you hear anybody that's recommending certain supplements or anything like that.
All the time, but I know part of me is like, well, you could add, this one thing, and you could add this other thing, and then you add all of these things. And let's say you have a really good, a good training cycle or a good race result, you don't get injured that training cycle, but then now you're taking all of these extra things, like what do you take away, if anything? And are you like just committing yourself to it forever? I don't know. Same here. We are trying to eat more, I'm going to call it plant forward. Like we still do eat some chicken and some fish around here, not a lot of other meats, but really trying to get all of the nutrients from fruits and veggies and legumes. Like those are probably better than any supplement. And then really trying to dial in the carbs and the protein based on what we need. But we were trying to get it from whole foods.
Perfect. Yeah. I think that the other concept of, I think I already mentioned this, but the processed food and the ice cream, with training is really not going to do anybody any benefits. And then overeating in general, right? I think that I probably was doing that at the time, and I probably still do a little bit now, but I'm focusing on that too. So, new things that, I've learned through obesity medicine have really focused in on why you're overeating, or really, really feeling if you're full or not, and not going too far so you're uncomfortable. Because obviously if you overeat before a race, that's not good. You're going to have, indigestion, cramping and everything. And then if you're overeating after you, like gain weight like I did, or
Yeah. Hunger cues and fullness cues
Yes.
are
Yes.
important. And for us too, like even in the middle of training, I talked about our crazy appetites, but really dialing that in has been very helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're that hungry, it's probably because your body needs it. So I would say fuel your body, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely days where I'm eating way more, and I don't know if it's from a long run or from a lot of lifting or something. So I think I just eat if I'm hungry, and some days I won't be hungry.
Yeah.
There's
And everybody, I think that maybe the takeaway is everybody is sort of their own, an N of one, right? And there are some general guidelines we can follow, but like to really dial it in based on, your body type, what level of activity and what you're training for. They're all very helpful. But any final thoughts before I let you go?
I think, I think just learning your body and what you need is important, because eating healthy food is important to fuel your body to be able to run whatever you're cross training with too. I think actually I should mention, I really do think cross training helped me a ton when I run. And like I said, I only run 2 days a week now. And last year I ran like 750 miles, which I think is a lot for 2 days a week running. And so I thought I really like cross training too. But I think the biggest thing I wanted to point out was just getting the proper nutrition for your body and listening to the signals of your body, whether it's gaining weight and you need to cut back on something, and maybe it's carbohydrate like my problem, or maybe you're just overeating, or maybe you're eating too much of those indulgent, highly palatable foods that you probably don't want to use to fuel your body to have a good running experience.
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell everybody where they can find you and a little bit about your practice.
Okay, yeah. So I work at Clearwater Family Medicine and Allergy. We do have a weight management program. We're in Clearwater and Palm Harbor, Florida. I'm on Instagram at Clearwater Family Medicine and Facebook at Clearwater Family Medicine and Allergy, or under my name, Kerry Reller. Thank you for saying it right, by the way. Everybody calls me Kelly. And and if anybody's in Florida, let me know, because I will be able to take you on.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience. For all of our Florida people, look her up. All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. And we'll see you guys on our next episode. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you liked it, please subscribe and share it with a friend. And if you are a newer runner or a runner who hasn't run in a while and you're looking to get back into the sport, you can find out how to work with me over on my website, which is mindful-marathon.com. See you on the next episode.